Every woman on the planet will face this 6-stage cycle of hardships throughout their entire life. Trust me, I have sympathy for you because this is definitely something hard. And when I say women have it hard, I don't necessarily mean that they have it harder than men or men have it harder than women or anything like that. I'm just completely saying this out of a place of understanding so people can understand, because one of my missions is to create peace. And how do we get peace? By understanding each other. But we can't understand each other when we're always at war with ourselves. We're never at war with an issue. It seems like in my country anyway, it's always race versus race, men versus women, Democrat versus Republican. It's always human versus human parties instead of human versus issue. So I want to create an understanding, and this is the neurological cycle that every woman will go through that makes their life a little bit difficult. This is how the female brain rewires itself 6 different times throughout its entire lifetime, whereas the male brain does it only a few. Where this information comes from is a neuropsychiatrist named Luann Bresendine, and she did this because she realized that all the neuroscience studies were done on male brains, so she wanted to figure out what it's actually like on female brains. For each stage, I will go over the neurological effects that's happening to the female brain, and I will go over the behavioral responses that is causing. The first undergoing change of the female brain starts at fetal. Around 8 weeks of gestation, if the fetus is female, then there won't be a surge of testosterone going into the brain, which will then not masculinize the brain. Female neurocircuits work and connect to emotions, communication, and social bonding. The behavioral effects in this stage is a predisposition for empathy, social interaction, and emotional intelligence, and there's a higher sensitivity to vocal tones and facial expressions. The second change is in childhood. The neurological change here, in this stage, estrogen and oxytocin levels surge up, shaping new neural circuits in nurturing, bonding, and emotional processing. The brain also develops stronger pathways in verbal communication and social awareness. The behavioral effects are increased interest in social dynamics, storytelling, and relationship building, and a greater emotional sensitivity and a tendency toward cooperative play. The third rewire of the female brain is puberty. This is a massive surge in estrogen, progesterone, and oxytocin levels, reshaping the brain again for emotional processing and social behavior centers. The amygdala becomes more reactive while the prefrontal cortex is still in development. Behavioral effects of this stage is heightened emotional intensity and sensitivity, increased focus on peer approval, relationships, and self-image, and more susceptibility to mood swings such as stress because of the fluctuating hormones. The fourth stage is pregnancy or motherhood. High levels of oxytocin, prolactin, and estrogen lead to rewiring the brain for maternal instincts. The amygdala sensitivity increases, making that mother hyper-aware of her baby's needs. And dopamine-driven bonding mechanisms shape mother and infant attachment. Behavioral effects, increased nurturing and protective instincts, sensitivity to the child's emotional and physical well-being, and possible vulnerability to postpartum mood swings because of the hormones fluctuating once again. The fifth stage is perimenopause and menopause. Declining estrogen levels lead to reduced connectivity in memory and emotional processing areas of the brain. Amygdala and hippocampus shrink slightly, affecting mood regulation and memory. The brain adapts by shifting away from reproductive priorities. The behavioral effects of this stage: mood swings, increased stress response, and potential cognitive fog. A shift in focusing from that motherhood and that nurturing of others to a self-fulfillment and more self-goals. This one's kind of interesting, honestly. Less emotional reactivity and more confidence in self decision-making. Then finally, for you ladies, you have the final stage of the brain rewiring, which would be postmenopause. This is where the brain stabilizes with lower but more consistent hormone levels, so they're less fluctuating. New neural pathways form to prioritize wisdom, long-term thinking, and resilience. Final behavioral effects on that: an increased focus on self-actualization and legacy. Because all the moms out there, you gotta leave a legacy, I guess. Decline in anxiety and emotional reactivity compared to earlier years of their life. Stronger resilience and prioritization of meaningful relationships rather than just superficial social bonds. I know that was a lot to take in. That's why I kind of made sure that I didn't go too deep into the neurological aspect to confuse everybody, but I tried to keep it more on the behavioral effects side so people understand why they're acting the way they're acting and we can understand each other. Men can understand the stages of women that go through, and women can understand even themselves more with this 6-stage cycle that happens, and you cannot stop it. You can't try to prevent it from happening. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen, and you just gotta know where you're at on that cycle so you can deal with it best. For this video, I hope you got knowledge out of it, and I hope for you men out there you can understand a little bit more, and women, you guys as well, understand yourselves. So a little disclaimer for this video: by all means, this is not meant to disempower anyone, as my job is I want to empower people. Just by saying these behavioral effects, for example, like mood swings or have a negative emotion come up, this just means that you're more susceptible to them. This doesn't mean that it's inevitable to change that. It just means that for the same situation I might be going through, you might be a little bit more susceptible to entering a negative state of mind. But that doesn't mean you can't snap out of it right away, be conscious of it, and then end it right there and go back into a positive state. It just means, like I said, you're just a little bit more susceptible to it. I think biology and genetics play minimal role in how our life plays out, but I get other people think that it plays a big role. So I just wanted to put that out there, that you could do whatever you want no matter what your biology says. This world is yours.